As conference alignment continues, one of the conferences that continues changing is Conference USA. You bring in two new members in 2025, and it's time to take a look at the big questions for every team in that conference, including those two new teams. Before we do that, though, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video. It goes a long way in helping this channel grow. It's been tremendous over the last year, how much growth we've seen, and it's only because of you. But let's dive into Conference USA. We start with the new face, one of the new faces, Delaware. Delaware comes into Conference USA, their first year in the conference, and the big question for them is what should we expect from them in year one? This is a team that went 9-2 at the FCS level in 2024, and it's a team that has a lot of exciting players coming back in 2025. And again, we'll see what happens to this team. We'll see what they need in terms of, do they need time? You saw teams like Sam Houston and Kennesaw State both needed some time early. Kennesaw State, obviously, we'll see what happens this year in their second year. Sam Houston figured things out pretty quick. That's not really surprising. So we'll see if Delaware is going to need some of that time. Do they need to slow things down and adjust to life at the FBS level, or are they going to pick things up right away? I don't think that they're going to be a contender right off the bat, but this is a team that had success at the FCS level in 2024, so maybe they can bring some of that momentum into the league in 2025. Next, we go to FIU. Again, we're doing this alphabetically, so we'll go to the FIU Panthers. And you're looking at Willie Simmons. What can he do to turn this program around? Can he turn this team into a winner? That's a big question for FIU. This is a team that has, I don't want to say underachieved, because I think expectations have always been pretty low for that program over the last handful of years. Mike McIntyre couldn't get things going, and really, they haven't had a winning season since 2019. They're 13-40 since that season, so it has not gone well for this program. This is not a program that has had a ton of success. Willie Simmons very familiar with the area. You know, you bring Pitbull in to maybe spark some excitement surrounding the program. So we'll see what happens with this team. But Willie Simmons definitely has a lot of work to do. Has a couple of interesting players that were exciting in 2024 back this year. But this is a team that definitely has a lot of work to do before they're back to being even in a bowl contention. Kennesaw State is kind of in that same boat too. We talked about their lack of success, but FIU has been a team that's been in this conference for a while, and they can't seem to quite figure things out, and it feels like all these new faces that are coming in are just kind of surpassing them. And this is a team that's definitely in an area with plenty of talent, so Willie Simmons definitely has a lot of work to do. Jacksonville State loses Rich Rodriguez to West Virginia. Now you have Charles Kelly coming in. Can he sustain the success that Rich Rod brought to this program? Rich Rod brings Jacksonville State to a good level at the FCS level. Then he finds ways to win at the FBS level, joining Conference USA. Again, another familiar face in Conference USA in terms of, another new face in Conference USA. Rich Rod had this program humming towards the end of the year. He was doing a lot of really good things for this team, and then obviously gets a promotion to West Virginia, goes back to the Mountaineers. So can Charles Kelly continue that success? I think if there's a candidate for a step back, it is the Gamecocks. They lost quite a bit of talent, whether that's to graduation, NFL draft, transfer portal. Charles Kelly has a lot of work to do if he's going to turn this team back into a winner. Kennesaw State, we talked about that. Is Jerry Mack the answer? I'm not sure why if you couldn't win with Bohannon after one season going to the FBS level, I don't know if Jerry Mack is going to be the answer. The new head coach comes in, Brian Bohannon gets fired. That was kind of a weird situation. I think that Bohannon had been there a while, and I'm not really sure why they decided that after one season in the FBS level to move on from him, but I don't know. They had a win over Liberty last year. That was kind of surprising. So I guess if you're looking for positives, that's something that could be used to inspire your team. You have the ability to compete with some of those teams. But again, the coaching staff has a lot of work to do for a team that went 2-10. Liberty is next. Speaking of those Flames, Jamie Chadwell has some work to do. He has to replace quite a bit of talent, including QB1. But also, what's the rushing attack going to look like in 2025? You lost a ton of talent running the football in 2024, and 2025 is going to look a lot different. Von Blue could be the answer. Caden Williams could be an answer, and Evan Dickens coming in from the transfer portal. those are players that could step up in a big way. You just need one of them or multiple of them to do so. You saw a lot of exciting things for Jamie Chadwell and his offense at Liberty and Coastal Carolina. Now you have new faces that have to step up. You also bring in Ethan Vasco from the transfer portal. Caden Salter goes to Colorado to the transfer portal. You have to bring in a quarterback. Ethan Vasco is familiar with Jamie Chadwell, his system. Do you feel like that's a pretty good fit? That's actually really exciting if you are a Liberty Flames fan. I think Vasco is going to be a good replacement for Salter. He has the tools to run that offense. It's just going to come down to who else is going to join him running the football. Louisiana Tech. I think this is a big year for Sonny Cumbie and the Bulldogs. It is a bowl game in their future. Do they have the ability to get to a bowl game? That's probably a big question for this program. And honestly, there are plenty of winnable games. This is a program that can definitely win 6 games on their schedule. And when you look at who they have, they get their toughest games at home: Southern Miss, Western Kentucky, Sam Houston, Liberty. You also get some of the worst teams in this conference, including the two new teams that are coming. You get Kennesaw State, UTEP, Delaware. You also get Missouri State. We'll talk about the Bears here in just a little bit, but that feels pretty good. You feel like you're confident in your ability to get to those 6 wins. If you can, you're obviously going to have to win some of those tougher games, but again, those games are at home, so it makes that maybe a little bit better if you're a Louisiana Tech fan. Middle Tennessee is next. Middle Tennessee has to be more competitive. Can they do that? Derek Mason has a lot of work on his hands to turn this program around and get them back to where they want to be. This is a team that once was competing for Conference USA championships, had some really exciting offenses. You're hoping maybe they can get back to that and put their name kind of at the top of that conference. The biggest things you look at from last year, you look at you had wins over UTEP, Kennesaw State, Tennessee Tech. So those are expected wins, but then you lost all the other games. Obviously, you finished 3-9. You lost by a combined average of 24 points. You can't really compete when you're down more than 3 scores. You're just not going to be able to win football games that way. You're just not going to be able to contend if you're, again, this is still early in Derek Mason's era, but this is a team that, again, I think if you're looking at the history of Middle Tennessee, when you had Stock still there, you feel like you're missing out on the opportunity to compete in a conference that honestly is pretty wide open. There's arguably the worst conference in college football, in FBS level at least, in terms of talent. I think that this is still a conference that's very competitive, very very exciting. It at least has the potential to be exciting, and some of these new teams that are coming in are showing you exactly why. Middle Tennessee is a team that was, a familiar face, but can they get back to the top of the conference? Talking about the newcomers, Missouri State. The big question I think I have for them is, can they contend right away? And here's the reason why. This is a team that was giving a lot of really good FCS teams a run for their money. They finished 8-4 last year. They lost their first 2 games by a combined 13 points to number 3 ranked Montana and Ball State. Now, you're probably thinking, well, those aren't really the best teams in FBS level, but Montana's a very good program. Ball State is an FCS or FBS team, so you're feeling like maybe you have the ability to contend in a conference that Ball State, if you put Ball State in Conference USA, maybe you feel like they'd be in there, but the fact that you're able to compete with them maybe says good things about what you're going to do. You also then rattle off 8 straight wins. Then you lost big to North Dakota State and South Dakota State to end your season, but I think that this is a Missouri State team that has a lot of confidence going into Conference USA, and this could be a team that is competitive right off the bat. I think with who they played, the competition that they faced, that makes them a little bit different than Delaware. Delaware didn't exactly play a ton of elite competition. They did go have a better record than the Bears, but I think that Missouri State feels like they're in a pretty good opportunity, and maybe Delaware surprised us too, but Missouri State feels like they're in a good position there. New Mexico State, who's the quarterback? You lose your starting quarterback. Santino Marucci is back. Well, 519 yards passing, though. 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. You feel like maybe that's not the best resume to go off of. You also bring in Logan Fife from Montana/Fresno State, guy who's looking to be a starter. Maybe that is the right fit, but there's a lot of work to do at New Mexico State. Ever since Jerry Kill departed, you feel like this program is back to where they were before he got there. We'll see, though. That's going to be something. The quarterback position, obviously, a big one. There's a lot of questions with New Mexico State, but quarterback is probably one of the biggest ones there. Sam Houston, another team that is getting a new coach. Phil Longo comes back to Sam Houston. He was the offensive coordinator. Now he's the head coach. Can Longo continue the success that Casey Keeler brought to this program? Another new face that came to Conference USA. They found ways to be successful really quick. Keeler did a great job of turning that program around at the FBS level and found them winning 10 games in 2024. Going from 3-9 to 10-3, very impressive. Longo obviously fired at Wisconsin. Things just didn't work out with the Badgers. Now he is back at a familiar place, and his return to Sam Houston is welcomed, but the question is going to be, will it work? Can he continue winning football games? The offense feels like what he wants to run is a good fit. And when he was at Sam Houston, he figured out ways to get that rushing attack going. I think that he'll be a really fun player or coach to watch. And the players that he has on his roster feel like they'll be a good fit. And maybe it'll take a little bit of time, but Phil Longo feels like he's in a place that he is going to fit in pretty well. UTEP is next, another team that has struggled mightily. Conference USA has had quite a bit of teams that are going to struggle and be, for a lot of people, chalk it up as a win, as you would say. How do you get out of the cellar? I think that right now Scotty Walden really has his hands full. It's a tough first year when you go 3-9. Wins were over Kennesaw State, New Mexico State, and FIU. So you didn't really show. I mean, if anything, you just showed you're better than those teams, which isn't necessarily saying anything if you finish with a similar record to those teams. But you showed some signs of competitiveness early in the season, but then that kind of fell off. So there is definitely work that needs to be done if the Miners are going to take a step forward. They are not going to be a contender, but a bowl game could be a goal that they strive for if they have the right pieces in place. Western Kentucky got hammered by the transfer portal. They had a pretty good year in 2024. How do you replace some of those important players? You lose Caden Veldkamp, you lose a number of players out wide. That was going to hurt. You always knew that was going to be a problem, but this is a program that has done a good job of recruiting. They've done a good job in the transfer portal, and you go to the FBS or FCS level, even the Division II level, as we've seen in the past. Now you bring in Maverick McIver. You feel like that's kind of a good fit, a guy who can sling the ball all over the field. You also bring back Musa Berry as a good wide receiver for you. So you feel like you still have some pieces in place. So it's not, you're not losing everybody. You're not losing all hope, but this is definitely a conference that is going to be difficult with all these new faces. There's a lot of new challenges that are going to be presented. Western Kentucky is one of those teams that has challenges themselves, but I feel like they've done a good job of evaluating talent, getting the right pieces in place, and bringing them in to compete right away. Conference USA is going to be fun. I think that if you're a diehard college football fan and you are looking for a conference to potentially enjoy, Conference USA could be really fun. Can Liberty get back to the top of the conference? Sam Houston and Jacksonville State, those are two teams that were very successful last year. They have new coaches. Are they going to be successful? You have some old faces like Middle Tennessee, Louisiana Tech, those teams, Western Kentucky. Are they going to compete for the conference championship? Will one of the new faces step up? I don't know. We're going to see. But this is a conference that could be very exciting in 2025, and it'll be fun to see which one of those teams steps up and shows us that they are the team to beat, or maybe multiple teams show us that it's going to be a race for first place.